I'm super pumped. I am super pumped to do this with you, buddy.
This is gonna be fun.
This is going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk throughout this, kind of telling you what this is. We know that there's going to be people popping in and out of the live broadcast, but we're going to be recording this to be able to use later to do a book club. Right now, we're calling it a book club for survivalists or something along those lines. We're going to ask you to help us figure out what we're doing in just a little while. But episode 0. Phil, tell me a little bit about what's in your brain about what we're about to launch here. I mean, is it a podcast? Is it a radio show? What are we doing?
That's a really good question, because as we were just sitting here messing around, getting our graphics set up and lights and all that, yep. I know I was really stoked for the pregame portion.
Yeah, we got to start doing that. We got to start recording that or broadcasting that.
That's the thing. Or so that's what we got to do, and that's a whole show in itself. So that makes it less of a podcast and, like you said, more of a show.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's gonna be more of a live, or a more of a show, which is gonna be a lot of fun. So, but I think the big thing that's kind of bringing you and I together, and the thing that's gonna make this into consistency, is we've got some. You and I have been on a journey over the last year, 2 years, year and a half, something like that. We've been reading some book series. They're fictional, but they're kind of.
Are they?
I've always. Wait, ooh, that's a good question. Maybe they are. Maybe they aren't. Maybe they're prophetic.
Maybe.
But I call them thought experiments. Would that be? Do you think that would be an accurate description of what we're talking about?
Well, thought provoking.
Sure.
For sure.
Right.
But.
So what did we ever figure out what the first series was that we started? Was it The Ranch? Is that what it was?
I think, you tried to convince me to listen to Terminalist.
Right. Like 2 years ago.
Right. Maybe whenever. I think right away when it first came out.
And you hate books written by and about Navy SEALs. Let's just be honest.
Well, I mean, most of the world does, or anybody who's ever actually interacted with Navy SEALs in their operational role. I mean, that kind of gives you a hint that you don't want to deal with Navy SEALs. But then when you interact with them later at the bar, it solidifies.
Man, I got no shade to throw.
And the next day when they're in the back of your airplane throwing up everywhere.
Oh, nice. Did you ever intentionally give them a rough ride? Was that ever something that maybe?
I feel like that might represent something we couldn't talk about in a Maxim show.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
I'm not sure what you mean by rough ride.
Oh gosh, dude, okay. I'm in the plane. Did the pilots ever intentionally try to make them sick?
No, a pilot would never do that. And good aircrew etiquette is that you never sell out the O's. So if someone was to have possibly raised the elevation of the pressurization inside the airplane, to perhaps something above 10,000 feet.
Oh, okay.
The problem being Navy SEALs being in the excellent shape that they are,
everybody's sick.
Those of us that are smokers and everything. Yeah. So the key is to be sucking on oxygen so they can't tell that what you're doing. But that's one of the tricks with a rowdy crowd, especially guys that are throwing up and making a mess in the back, is you just kind of slowly raise the cabin pressure, altitude, and they all go to sleep. Yeah, it doesn't hurt them. It just makes them really tired.
And you don't have to listen to them whine about things anymore. But I mean,
right. And if anybody wants to do that, it would have been a crew chief or a flight engineer enlisted, and not one of those O's up there.
Not one of those O's up in the front of the bus.
Certainly never would have done it to a certain governor from a certain state that it may or may not be in over Afghanistan when he couldn't shut his mouth.
That's amazing. That's very exciting.
Nobody liked him.
No one would do anything like
people
that.
Really don't like his daughter.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Like the whole country doesn't like his daughter. Well, I guess there's a whole lot of people in California that like his daughter.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. We should probably.
So probably most people could figure out who I'm talking about.
I would imagine. I think I've decoded your secret decoder ring. I think I've got it figured out. So all BS aside here, I love it, man. See, that's the stuff that you're gonna bring to this that I'm really excited about. You know,
Your whole job is to keep me from getting in legal trouble. So.
Right. I'm gonna have to be the brakes if you're the gas. Like I'm gonna be like, bro, come on back now, because you're gonna get a knock on the door from the black van. Here in a minute, but I mean, I do know that one of the things that you've said
ones
to me,
where they knock, I'm okay with.
That's right. That's true.
No knocks are hazardous to their health.
Buddy, that is true. That's hazardous to everybody's health at that point. But I do know that I think you've used the line that seals rhyme with book deal. Seal rhymes with book deal a lot. So anyway, but I worked really hard to try to get you to pick up a Jack Carr book. And I think it was like, as he started hanging out at Thunder Ranch more, you were like, oh, okay, if Clint likes this guy, then maybe he's decent. Like, you know,
I mean, I've always had a lot of respect for Clint and Heidi and at Thunder Ranch. I don't know them personally. I know you do.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
I do. I love them.
I have a lot of respect for them, and enough to know that they don't need to know me.
If I had all the money in the world, I would buy the place from them right now. They just put it up for sale. So hey, if you're shopping for one of the most beautiful properties in Southern Oregon you could ever find, very remote,
you lost me.
Very awesome. I don't know. I know. Yeah. I know. Just pretend like it's not. It's very close to like Nevada. Anyway, if you're shopping, you should definitely go check out Thunder Ranches for sale. Not the business, the property. If I had all the money in the world, I would buy the property and I would just let them stay there forever and just do their thing.
Sure.
But
yeah,
I would
definitely,
I would never presume to get in their way. But as I was trying to persuade you into reading the Terminal List, I think you kind of conversely and was like, you need to read The Ranch, and I think is how it went. It's been like 2 years ago.
Was it The Ranch or was it? I don't recall. Hold on, we're in the revenue generating office, and we forgot.
Do it, man. Maybe we could witness you making money.
Right? That'd be nice.
Could we witness you making money? I want to see that.
It's after hours on Friday.
Show me the money. I want to hear you yell at somebody, because that's your job.
There's this magical button that I sometimes forget to take off. It says "Do not disturb."
Hey man, you're in the money. You're in the money maker. They should always disturb.
Yeah, we've got 3-4 deals going, but that's just how it happens.
Smartwater.
I talk about this deal with the state, but
yeah,
I want their money.
Yeah, you want the money, man.
If they pay me.
So the ranch is not on the table for this season, but we may come back to that one, because that one's a seriously interesting book series. And I kind of let off the sort of hint, if you will, was that this is going to be a book club for survivalists.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that because this is pregame.
This is pregame, man. This is we're just getting into, and it's episode 0, right? So like we're not starting a book tonight. We're starting the conversation about what it's going to be like when we start a book series.
Week 0 is the worst, so it fits.
It fits. Week 0 is that.
There's nothing worse than knowing everything you're doing is not going to count.
That's true. That is true. That's a very valid point. I totally agree with that. So inside of this conversation, we're just spitballing here. If anybody's got a name for the, this silliness that we're going to put together, and we're going to, hopefully what we're going to do.
Paint some lanes.
Yeah. Paint some lanes. If anybody's got any suggestions, I'd love if you hit me up in the comment section below. And my comment section's a little bit jacked up right now. I'm going to have to periodically maybe look at my phone, because I'm not getting the comments like I'm supposed to be getting them, because I think Facebook stopped communicating. And as I open Facebook, have you seen the newest Bacon bit? Have you seen that, child? Did you see that Jamie and Kelly Bacon had a baby? They're so cool.
I did.
So yeah, they've got some new pictures up. You should go check those guys out. Anyway, when
are we getting Bacon on the show?
Oh, we'll definitely get Bacon on the show for sure. Yeah, 100%.
Does Bacon read?
Bacon reads. He reads a lot. He listens to a lot of audiobooks for sure, man.
I knew he was a smart guy.
He's a smart guy. He's a multitasker like we are. That one of the reasons why I gravitate toward audiobooks is I can be doing multiple things. I can be reloading ammo. I can be working on rebuilding a carburetor. I can be all driving down the highway. I do a lot of driving. Going to fish or going to minister someplace, right? And I can process information while I'm doing all of that, and that's partially because I'm super high level ADD ADHD, which some of you will be. You will be very blessed by that through the course of the series, I'm sure. You got one dude with wicked high levels ADHD ADD, and you got one dude with a TBI. So like that's gonna be great. Like
we don't admit to that. I have no recollection of getting a TBI.
Okay, all right. Okay, good. You don't. Well, I think that's the point.
The only people who actually have TBIs are people who get paid, and I certainly don't get paid.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Even though I think you should. So as we talk about
that, we've narrowed down 3 series.
Yes.
For the first season.
Any particular order you want me to talk? You want to talk about these?
I've gone. Yeah, I'm kind of back and forth myself. As we said, each have their own distinct points to current event relevance.
Correct.
And every single one of them has things that are happening today that are frightening. I don't know about you. How many times have you gone back and said, like, wait a minute, when did he write this book?
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. So one of them, one of the book series that we would be looking at would be this series, Behind the Curve, by Boyd Craven. I think, and I think later on he gets a little more sophisticated. I think it's like Boyd Craven the Third, which is rad because my son is a third. So, but this is the Farm series, book 1. And this is about a tight-knit community of doctors and friends of doctors. There's like a couple of veterans. There's a couple of
there's a realtor in there.
There's a realtor. There's an attorney, I think. And they have decided to like kind of build, for lack of better words, a commune. It's not a commune. It's a farm that they all invest in, and they're all really helpful. They all have their own gifting and skills. And they basically have decided that this is where they want to kind of like hold up if things go.
If I recall, the premise of the group was an idea of building a self-sustaining property where they could help each other in retirement.
Pigs, chickens, yes, in retirement, yeah.
Because I don't think none of them had children.
Correct. No, none of them had
children. For various
children.
reasons.
Right. And most of I think it was almost the same. It was like their careers had gotten in the way of almost all of them. They didn't have children.
Yeah, I don't remember if they got too far medically.
Right.
No, they do at one point.
They do at one point.
So, to be fair to say, you and I have read all of these.
We've read all of these, but we're going to read them again just so that we can talk about them in freshness. But the other thing that sort of makes this series very relevant is there's a massive amount of civil unrest based on some racial tensions, and there's a global pandemic that people are getting forced to medicate. Can we say medicate so that we don't get kicked off of something? And there are people who are like, I don't feel right about this. So this is a super relevant book in the current time.
And how they solve that and how it dissolves. Spoiler alert, it dissolves and there's drama.
It dissolves and there's spoiler alert. Here I was. Oh, whoops. No, sorry. Yeah. I'm going to get these graphics. This is why we have episode 0, right?
This is episode 0.
Yeah, so we can actually do things like that.
So if you go back and find out that I clipped the whole time,
there you go. No, you didn't. You're not clipping. You sound great. So like then, so when we do spoiler alerts, the goal is to do this. Right. So anyway, so it's gonna be slick, right? It's gonna be slick. But
spoiler alert, we're not that slick.
Right. Spoiler alert. We're not that slick. Anyway, so that's a series, and that's a 3-book series, correct?
Correct.
Okay, 3-book series for the farm. Are we waiting for another episode?
It up?
Do they wrap it up?
I think it was pretty wrapped from what I recall. Is it not?
I don't think so. No, I don't think
so.
I think we're waiting on book 4.
I'd say Mr. Craven would know.
We should have him on.
And he could certainly reach out and let us know.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. That'd be great.
I mean, I don't know if there'd be an advanced copy or something. Would be willing to.
That would be, dude. That's thinking about coolness levels that you and I have not ascended to. But that would be really super rad if we could be on a screening.
I'm at that level. Everybody just doesn't know it yet.
I got to be on one screening scenario, except I didn't. AJ Swoboda's new book that came out last year, I was on the list with the publisher. They just screwed up and forgot to send me the book.
Oh no. AJ's a cool dude.
Dude, he's rad, man.
He would be fun to have on the show.
He would be fun.
Because we know he's a reader.
Voracious reader.
And we also know that he thinks and approaches a lot of things from an extremely different point of view.
Oh man, for sure.
Than us, because he's got very different life experiences.
Very different.
But he's one of those people I've really enjoyed discussing things with, because he's so intelligent and he knows why he believes what he believes.
Yes.
And he knows how to discern bullshit.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And he is a strong enough person in his belief structure to call it when he sees it. And I really like that and appreciate that about him.
We should challenge him to jump into it. We should challenge him to jump in. I think we just did. Yeah, we may have just did.
I think we just did.
I also know that the man has more degrees than Fahrenheit. And I think he's teaching college full time. So he probably has like that much time to deal with things like us. But if we can challenge him to be in this thing, that would be really cool. All right. So another
for the next series up.
Another book, maybe the series, but book for sure, is one that I am very excited about, because you already mentioned it. It would be The Terminal List, because I finally got you to read it.
You did.
And you loved it. And tell us all why, in a nutshell, why you loved it, with a possible one of these. A little one. Don't do a big one, but do a little.
You think there's anyone that hasn't read it yet?
Gosh, if they haven't read it yet, they're missing out. This is going to be a show. Even on that graphic right there, it says Amazon Prime Video. It is going to be a show. In fact, you were telling me today, they're wrapped. They're done.
They're wrapped. Chris Pratt has already, he bought the rights early on, like a long time ago. In fact, if you don't know Jack Carr, go check out Jack Carr.
The best. When
this gets onto our channel, we'll put a link. Anybody we talk about, we'll give you some links.
We'll throw some links out there in our description.
So you can find these guys.
Yeah, for sure.
And at least at this point, if you're watching this video, we ain't making no money.
So no, we're not making any money. This is not sponsored by Amazon or Jack Carr by any stretch of the imagination, or Boyd Craven. You know what it's sponsored by? It's sponsored by spoiler alerts. Spoiler alerts, bringing you ruined endings in passionate fashion. Anyway. So no, but tell us all why, if you dare. Don't get us kicked off of Facebook now.
I don't know,
why do you like The Terminal List, Phil? Why did you decide to stop hating all Navy SEALs?
Oh man, that's a deep conversation. Let me think. I don't know.
If for those of you who don't know, my friend Phil is a combat veteran from the Air Force. Did a lot of combat search and rescue stuff. So he's a veteran. He can throw shade at the Navy. I don't get to throw shade at the Navy.
Nobody. Well, that's not true. Everybody throws shade at SEALs. They're just really good at embracing and enjoying the suck. So,
Here's the only shade that I will throw at the Navy SEAls. Here's the only shade. It's
about their hair.
It's not about their hair. No, it's not about their hair. I will say this. I would challenge people to read the book Alone at Dawn. They are not perfect. They are not people who are, they are not what they are portrayed to be. They make dramatically horrible mistakes too, just like everybody else. I think that in the mainstream media, they are portrayed as absolutely infallible. And I will tell you right now that if you want to see the truth, you read the book Alone at Dawn, and some really horrible stuff happened and they never got held accountable. But that's the only shade that I'll throw in the context of history. And I won't even unpack it. You go read the book yourself.
Yeah. I think we'll do a lot of that. The only books we're going to unpack are the series that we're covering at the time.
Right. And that's not a series. Yeah. That's just a fictional, or that's a nonfiction, story. No, it's a
So I don't
nonfiction book.
remember when I read Terminal List, but it wasn't that long ago. And
No, you just read it
yeah,
just a few months
you
ago.
convinced me to get into it. And I think a lot of it really was, what attracted me, and what you'll find in reading the Terminal List. It is a fictional world where people responsible for selling out our military.
Mm-hmm.
We're keeping this way 30,000 feet here.
Way
No
30,000
spoilers.
feet. Yeah.
Get held accountable.
Yes.
In the way
That we wish
most
they
military would hope it would happen.
There it is.
And Jack Carr is exquisitely skilled in giving the right amount of detail to make it satisfying.
There is a moment, without giving too much away, without any of this business, there's a moment that involves a cell phone that is beautiful. I'll just say it that way. That's
not my favorite one.
That's not your favorite one?
One involves a knife.
Oh, yes. In the Florida Keys. Yes. Okay. We won't go there until we get to those episodes. But
and so that's the thing. Give us a comment. So do we need to do that series first?
Maybe we do. But we
I don't know.
We have another one.
On the other hand, is that how we will drag people through? But hands down, now, as great as Jack Carr is, and he is great, he's going to be amongst the greats.
He is amongst the greats, and I would say this: I think that he's the best of the three authors that we've teed up for tonight by far, as far as his writing ability. The fact that the way he tells story, he writes long books like. Not quite Tom Clancy long, but long, like it's a really in-depth, well-developed story. He clearly spent a lot of time honing his craft to write. And whereas these other two series that we have, are great books. They're great thought experiments. They're great stories. They're very relevant to today. But you won't find the authorship that you find in the Carr books.
I want to agree with you, but go throw up the next.
Okay, so the next one that is a super favorite of ours is Rudolph.
Arguably Rudolph.
Yeah. Probably the number 2 best author in the series.
He really captured me quite well. Actually, it took a while in this first book.
Yeah.
I think it was his first book. We'd have to go back and check. I don't recall. It's the first book we read of him.
First of his books that I've ever read. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and let's be honest. Let's give credit where credit is due here. How did we find our way to Rudolph? It was through Audible and the narrator.
The narrator. That's exactly right. His name is
Pierce. Right?
Pierce? Is it Pierce? Yeah, I think it is Pierce. Hold on. Gosh. Hey, we're good at this, man. Good thing this is episode 0, dude. Title details. Hold on. Title details.
Slick Church. Hold on.
Kevin Pierce. Kevin Pierce is by far the best narrator for anything post-apocalyptic.
Either number 1 or number 2, but
number 1 or number 2 post-apocalyptic books. He has got a book. He's got a voice that just drags you through the story. Like he's just kicking and screaming sometimes. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's how we found our way to Rudolph.
Right. So we listened to Goodwin books, which Goodwin will probably end up in season 2, right? We kind of already decided that.
I think so, because we could do an entire season of Goodwin series.
Absolutely, we could. Absolutely. Days of Noah, phenomenal one. What was the one about the country singer, the financial crash? That was...
that was pretty good too.
Yeah, that was a really, really good one. I like how they all hunkered down at Grandma's farm. I think that's rad. But I think that Rudolph does a phenomenal job. And here's the story: I don't typically gravitate toward books where the main character is a heroine. I don't believe, not that I have anything wrong, not that I have any problems with it, especially women. I think women kill people just as effectively as men kill people. But this story, revolves around a girl named, and I say girl because she's a teenager when this
She's
book
literally a
starts.
girl. I think
She's literally a
that's what I
girl.
was trying to figure. I think
Yeah.
15,
Young
16.
lady or teenager,
Yeah,
whatever.
young woman.
So she's a young woman, and I think that I like it because, and again, spoiler alerts, she gets to spend some time at places like Thunder Ranch and different stuff, and so she's got some. What was I going to say? She's got a certain set of skills, right? And
She does, and that's the one part that I have some problems with.
yeah,
Ultimately,
it's a little
we'll get
fictional.
into that, but yeah, by about the fourth or fifth book in the series, you're like, okay, well, the stuff they're describing, um, from people who've done some of that training, this is not something that you learn
Right.
in a year.
No.
I don't care if you do it every single day;
Right.
you're not going to be there in a year.
Correct.
And
Correct.
so, as much as I appreciate Rudolph, there's some pretty stretched timelines, and some of his stuff doesn't quite match.
It's true.
And that goes back to your point about Jack Carr and how well he really illustrates realistic timelines.
Sure.
Despite the fact that it is fantastical, he's Jack Carr has been through enough of the world and had enough dealings with actual CIA and persons and types of.
For sure.
He writes from experience,
Right.
And so even though later in the series he gets into a type of novel that is really not my deal,
right?
Because it really is much more like the '90s series, spy novels, and and I'm not a spy novel guy.
I'm not either. I've read a little bit of like Ludlum and got a little bit into the Bourne Identity, which I would say that the movies, the Bourne Identity, they have this in common with the books. There's a dude named Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember what happened to him or who he is, but he has these like muscle memory skills and abilities, not supernatural abilities, just like clearly he's been through some poo, right, in his life. And that's the only similarities. The movies are not Jason Bourne. Like, it's like they should have just named it something totally different. Like it was, but sometimes Hollywood just destroys the books that we love and turns them into absolute jackwagons. And so we're really hoping.
Yeah, are we concerned about that at all with Jack Carr? He says no.
He says no.
He says no.
Here's why I'm not concerned. It's not a movie, it's a series. So most books on average are something like 10,000 words, and I think his books are more like closer to 15, right? Because they're a little further average.
Well, the first one for sure was
sure, right? And then a movie is something like 2,500 words or like 3,000 words. And so just in doing the math, most movies have to butcher, everybody. Okay, we'll use Tolkien, right? Everybody was like, why does The Hobbit need to be 3 movies long? Because it's 3 movies long. That's like, Tolkien writes books that are, the Middle Earth phone book, right? So anyway, I think Jack nails it when he says that the series it's a series, so they didn't have to cut any words. They didn't have to cut any of the story. Of course, they tweaked things to make it more palatable for television, for to make it more marketable, but they didn't rape the story, and
to make a buck. And he didn't have to sell it,
right?
And he said, and again, we're talking Chris Pratt, and he has built a reputation of doing what he says,
making good movies too.
He's made some public trust,
correct,
through experience.
Yes.
So I don't know. I think we can trust him, but we'll find out. When are we finding out? Is it March?
March, I believe, is supposedly. I mean, if the world doesn't flip upside down,
I think that series is last.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that series is last because I want to be talking about that book when we're knocking on the door of the series, or bemoaning the fact that the series isn't coming out because craziness in politics makes it too real.
Well, I think that's entirely possible. We were talking about right before we punched go live, we were talking about couple of times that's happened, where real life events end up mirroring exactly what they filmed. And that is our concern right now for Terminal List. So if you've already read Terminal List and you're watching what's going down right now in our country,
in American politics,
America politics, and if you're watching what's happening with the military right now, as we're recording this in early September of 2021,
right?
There's some Terminal List stuff happening.
There's some Terminal List
stuff. There's some real potential for some Terminal List type dudes to do some Terminal List type shit.
That's exactly right. I mean,
and I'm not sure that half the country right now isn't ready to step off and support it and clap their hands. I'm ready for a slow clap.
It's really,
Yeah.
So there's did you want to bring up Colonel, what's his name? Did you want to mention him? No. Okay.
No. I think people understand if we say the light Colonel Marine, who's really good at playing chess.
Yeah, man, that's exactly right.
There's some potential Terminal List stuff getting ready to go down. With a master chess player, and I love it.
He may have written the best resignation letter without mentioning his name. It was just why are you resigning? Of course, in military form, there's a million boxes to check, right? At the very end of the letter, because I don't believe in your leadership. I was like, oh, there's some folks out there in my life that I'd like to write the letter because I don't believe in your leadership, right? You know what I mean? Like, so, man, politicians, leaders and communities and stuff, like, oof, man. So I thought that dude had in the words of Braveheart, balls of solid rock, right? So yeah. Anyway, we'll talk probably more about him and what we're alluding to as we get closer to Terminal List, because maybe he will have done some Terminal List stuff. We'll see.
Maybe.
Stay tuned.
Maybe
we might have some things to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's where my brain lands. I want to talk about the Terminal List closer to March when the series is coming out, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But these other two series I think are relevant to today, because I think for the first time in, we'll say, modern history, because certainly not very far back, because I think that preppers are no longer the stinky kid at the table. Okay. I think somewhere around...
No, homesteaders are the stinky kids at the table. Let's be honest.
That's right. If they called themselves preppers instead of homesteaders, then we would all be like, we would all be down. But, and there's some great homesteaders that are also borderline preppers, man. In fact, actually, speaking of homesteaders being the stinky kid at the table, I almost drove to Sandpoint, Idaho today.
Oh.
Because there's a meetup for Martin Johnson. You don't know Martin Johnson? You haven't watched
the show? No, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll plug his channel. I'll drop it for sure. I love Martin Johnson. He and his family were missionaries in Africa for just a pile of years. I think maybe both or one of his kids was born in Africa, and they certainly both grew up. Most of their childhood experience in Africa. They decided to move to just outside of Sandpoint, Idaho, and I'm not revealing anything I'm not supposed to reveal that they talk about all the time. They invite people to come to Bible study at the Church of Christ there in Sandpoint all the time, almost every episode. Hey, don't forget, you can always find us Wednesday night at such and such time. I love that. Well, they got a show on Abundance Plus, and I don't know if you don't know what Abundance Plus is. That's a new paywall kind of homesteader network that Justin Rhodes started out in South Carolina.
Okay.
And these episodes are filmed with like Red cameras, and those of you who are not camera geeks like Phil and I, they're $10,000-$15,000 cameras.
I'm barely limping into Sony right now.
Right. Me too. Right. And
I was just talking to Black Magic stuff the other day with Sweetwater, but
right,
we're not there yet.
These episodes are absolutely beautiful. I think you can even do a 7-day trial of Abundance Plus if you want. Not a sponsor. They're just rad. They're cool people, and I would give them.
I'm still giving all my money to Warrior Poet.
Right. Yeah. Me too. Yeah. I haven't joined Abundance Plus yet, but I did watch some of their free stuff.
And Vet TV.
Oh, are you a Vet TV guy? It looks so fun.
From the beginning.
It looks so fun.
It's the train wreck you would expect it to be.
It looks to me like if Saturday Night Live were entirely populated by veterans and it were funny.
The thing is, if it was like all veterans, then it'd be very universal. But this is essentially the Army's E4 mafia, and that's it. Like
Okay.
it's so dysfunctionally stupid.
Right.
But I support them in spirit, and kind of like with War Poet, I'm with you. Like before John even went live, I was like, here,
Take my money.
membership.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
of
joined
course.
early.
We support what you do and why you're doing it,
and who you are.
and
Like the guy's he's a Jesus follower. If you don't know who the Warrior Poets Society is,
you got to check that out.
I am an absolute fanboy. There are two different tools on me right now that were directly attached to development by John Lovell and the Warrior Poets Society, and both of those tools are attached to a belt. I mean, I'm a fanboy. Like, I'm not gonna even lie. Like, they're
I
great.
thought you were talking about the belt too.
No. The tools are attached to the belt. I'll bring those out in another episode. But anyway, but no. I love John. He's a Jesus guy. He's a Bible study guy. He's just an amazing dude, and he's hysterically funny. Like his sense of humor. And I like all the folks on their staff. I like Evan. The what's the training gnome? What's his name? The training gnome. Oh gosh, they're so funny. Anyway, so check out
don't
the Warrior.
Watch that much of it. I just give him my money.
Yeah, that's cool too. Take a look at and of course, most people who are watching via my channels know that I've been on a major weight loss journey this last year, and
right.
I'm like 110 pounds down. That's part of my prepping.
Now my people don't know.
So. Okay. So yeah. So for Phil's friends, I right about now, last year, maybe so 11 months ago, let's say it that way, I changed everything about how I was eating.
Yeah, because it was before Thanksgiving. You did it through the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did it through the holidays. Yep, 100%. Hold on, I'm getting a phone call. Sorry. So I changed everything about how I was eating, and then I started working out.
I'll act like somebody loves me too.
Sorry, sounds great. Thanks for doing that. And then I started working out at an undisclosed location with undisclosed people because I'm not legally allowed to disclose where I was working out because it was during a pandemic that everything was shut down.
By the way, none of that was shut down in Alaska because we believe in freedom up here.
Because you believe in freedom? Yeah, no joke, man. You do too. So I'm trying to plan my escape one day, man. One of the years from now. But anyway, so all that being said, so I've been on a major weight loss journey for about 11 months, or 10 months right now, really, if I'm honest. And I've lost 110 pounds in the last 10 and a half months. And 80 of that was on my own, just hard work, grind it out, right? And then the rest of that has been post-surgery. So I had bariatric surgery. So my channel followers will see that I do bariatric surgery updates and tips and tricks for bariatric surgery.
Right. So pop over to your channel and
pop over
catch those because it's worth it. Yeah,
it's fun, man. We have a good time. I'm even people who haven't been through bariatric surgery, I talk a lot about like low carb, high protein, not keto because it's stupid. But I'm not a doctor. The lawyers are telling me right now to remind you it's not medical advice. But I that's a big deal. And what I haven't revealed, and I'll do a more in-depth video down the road, is a big portion of my why it's been a prep. Okay.
Right.
Because as I look down the road of what America is and what it's becoming and what the world is, and the world is becoming, it's not just an American issue. This is a world issue. I think that there's some really dark days ahead. And I did not want to face those days at faux fitty, right? That was not an option. So
it's just a part of the warrior ethos to be ready mentally and physically,
right?
And you're working on the physically,
and we're working on the physical.
It's not about changing things you can't do anything about.
No, it's about changing you,
it's changing the things that you have control over.
God has given me a church to lead. A family to lead. I should have said family first, right? Family, my wife and son to lead and protect. my church to lead and protect. And I just knew that I was not going to be able to fight those battles mentally or physically at 450 pounds. I spent years learning how to be an EMT. I got a lot of medical training in my brain. But that doesn't do a darn bit of good if you can't get down on your knees and do chest compressions on somebody who needs your help. So for me, my biggest why, and again, I'm going to unpack this in a bigger, more detailed video down the road, is that it was a prep. And for those of you who don't know what a prep is, that's kind of a code word in the prepping community of something that you have done, acquired, or sought after that gets you ready to be more self-sufficient. Would that be?
Right. Well, yeah, it's not always about the end of the world as we know it.
No.
So much as
sometimes it's about there not being any chicken on the shelf because of supply chain issues. Sometimes it's about not having toilet paper.
I don't know about you. I didn't run out of toilet paper.
I didn't run out of toilet paper. We didn't even come close.
And I also didn't have to go buy any toilet paper.
My church didn't run out of toilet paper.
I was able to give away some toilet paper.
We gave toilet paper away as prizes during church last year. Because like we were doing church outside. We're actually doing church outside right now, not because we feel like we have to, forced by the government, but because we want to try to love people who are still.
You have a couple of people in your body
maybe they're
loved well by doing that.
Yeah, so they feel loved by having church outside. So anyway, I look at that and and we gave toilet paper away as prizes during some games that we did at church last year. So that was pretty fun. But these series that I think are at the front of the queue, whether it be, whether
are we getting any comments? Is there anybody here? Because
no, there's been people watching, but nobody's really commenting.
Okay, because I'm starting to get an order distilled out in my mind.
Are you?
And okay. I'm solid with you. I would almost say let's do Terminal List, the first book.
Yeah,
and end the season there.
Okay, sorry. Say that again.
So, in my mind, Jack Carr is the third series.
Yep.
Of this first season.
I agree.
And the cliffhanger may even be that we just do Terminal List and end the season.
Yes, I think that's right.
I mean, I love Jack Carr, and I don't have to minimize him in any way. Saying this, I don't think it does.
No, I don't think so either.
You can lump together the other books so far because there's one due out.
That's right. There is one due out February.
There's one coming. It'll come out either. I'm not sure if it's coming out before the Amazon series or if it's going to be after the Amazon series.
I'm guessing it's probably going to be simultaneous. That dude, he's got to have a marketing team that's working for him now.
So it's done, and he's talked about it.
Yep.
It's in, it's at the editors right now.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna make a suggestion as far as book number 1 or series number 1 goes, and I got to tell you, I think I'm gonna undo something you and I talked about pregame.
Okay.
I got to tell you, based on so I love Rudolph. And I can't wait to talk about him with you. But Rudolph's books starts post-apocalyptic. And I think that it can actually start some really cool conversations about what we need to do to kind of be ready for, a potential collapse, whether it be an EMP.
There's some wish I would have in that book.
But I got to tell you, Behind the Curve actually starts pre-collapse.
And I'm with you.
What the world looks like, and it's a slightly smaller.
It really doesn't
series.
even go into a fully collapsed.
Can I throw a little shade at Mr. Craven, just a skosh? I'm just going to be honest.
Watching right now.
He's not
live.
Watching.
There's only like 5 or 10 people watching.
Right. I
don't think he's one of them.
No, I don't think so either. But I'll say this: the one criticism that I have to Mr. Craven is he writes very short books. I would say that the 3 or 4 books that he's written should have been a book. And I think that it was in a way, I think it was about bringing in revenue, which I totally understand. The guy needs to get paid and he needs to make money. And somebody along the way probably told him, hey, if you break this into 3 pieces, you get to sell it 3 times. And I just think that it's sort of sucky to put out a 6-hour audiobook, especially in the
it's hard not to agree with you. I caught a podcast by the author that you and I struggled, like, should we do the whole first season just with Goodwin?
Yeah, Goodwin's coming up second. See,
Goodwin was on Goodwin. A podcast, and he himself as an author struggled with this world of Amazon.
Right.
So Amazon he has a very tight followership, and they were imploring him to release books outside of Amazon, because if you do it through Amazon, Amazon owns your life. They own everything. You put a book onto Audible or Amazon, and congratulations, that is theirs.
That is their book. 51%.
It's rough. It's rough. So, and he explained, so I did it. He jumped through the hoops. He released outside, and like 20 people.
And he didn't sell any books. Yeah, they own the market share.
That's the thing. And you and I are both guilty of this.
Yep.
We both have Audible. I don't know about you. I've been with Audible for about 8 years.
8 or 10. Yeah.
8 or 9. Yeah. And the same with books. I mean, I don't have a place where I can, in Alaska, go buy a physical copy of a book anymore, because they don't carry the books that I want to read.
Correct.
Which is mostly religious, a lot of religious books. And, and I read a lot of, you and I both read mental health stuff.
Chaplain stuff for officers and soldiers. Yep.
Yeah, we're both constantly working on our chaplain knowledge base. And I can't find that anywhere around here. And the next problem that I have being in Alaska is that there are bookstores in the lower 48. I've heard that they exist, but none of them will ship to me. Or if they will, the shipping is 3 times the cost of the book. Not because it actually costs that, just because they hate Alaskans. And I understand, because we have a lot of freedom up here, and they're jealous.
Right. Or quite frankly, and we have a phenomenal brick and mortar bookstore here in town called Clint's. Shout out to Clint's. It's like I think it's the oldest bookstore in Oregon, which is rad.
And Oregon is an old place.
It's an old place. Yeah,
people don't realize that Oregon really is a pretty old.
And the Dalles is an old place, because no matter what the dummies over in Oregon City say, the end of the Oregon Trail was here.
Was actually
because then they got in the river and went. They left. Yeah. They got over the Silo Falls and they rode boats. It was no longer a trail; it was a boat ride, right? So so for me, that's really super cool, because the Dalles was a big settlement town. There's some crazy awesome history that happened here, but if you go into Clint's and they don't have what you need, they're going to order that for you. You're going to have to wait, 3 to 5 days, and guess where they're probably going to get it from?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that for sure, but if they can't find it anywhere else, guess where they're going to order it from? And maybe I should just bite the bullet and go in there and pay the $3 over market just to help keep them alive, because they're rad.
We're going to push these series and these books, and I know I've started buying hard copies of them.
Yes, you have, and I'm gonna start myself. I only have audio copies right now, but I ordered one just a little while ago, and so it's
I bought this.
Go ahead.
Because I felt so strongly about this, the message contained in this series,
right,
that I started buying a couple copies to give away to people.
Yeah, no,
people. I don't need to convince the whole world.
No.
But there's a couple of people that I would like to figure out how to get through a 3-day weekend of a natural disaster.
Sure.
And
gosh, man, and you and I talked about this time last summer, we talked about getting ready to evacuate for a forest fire. I mean, we did an episode like in the Wayback Machine, where we talked about what it meant to get ready for a forest fire or a natural disaster, or getting stuck on the highway in an ice storm, those kinds of things. And quite frankly, it came to fruition, whether you were in Texas or Portland, Oregon. both half of a state or a city got completely locked down. And I have friends in Portland that are so valuable to me that my plan, even back when I lived in Lakeview, was I will go there, I will get you, and I will bring you to where I am, because you must be on the island with me, right? And then I realized 84 was shut down, 26 was shut down, I-5 was shut down. There was no way to get to Portland to rescue my friends. They had no heat, they had no water, they had, and they had not prepared. And I had this really honest conversation with my friend, who will remain very nameless until he agrees to come on this show and maybe get challenged a little bit more.
Well, his testimony and story about this will be more powerful if he's
exactly was like, yeah. I mean, I was like, and I'm on the phone with him because thankfully he was still able to charge his phones through. I've got a friend in New Orleans. They don't know when her power's coming back on. I mean, right now, my brother-in-law has gone to Baton Rouge and New Orleans twice now to do media stuff for his power company, because he's a content creator for a big power company. But my friend, I'm going, dude, you need to set up your tent. I know you've got a tent. Set up your tent in your living room to create an insulation bubble. Put the kids in the tent. Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Cool. I mean, like,
we talked about some of that last year. Think practical things you can do with stuff you probably have.
Yeah. With what you probably have. And then afterward, think about things you definitely don't have, but would have made your life a lot easier.
For next time, because it's going to happen again.
Sure. And even in just a storm, when you're in an affluent neighborhood where you're stacked in like cordwood, which just sounds horrible to me, right? My neighborhood's too tight for me, and I'm not stacked in, but I'm renting because I got plans. But it's like, what would have happened if he would have prepped enough to have a generator in his backyard? Well, now everyone in a 5-block radius can hear his generator, and they all know he has power and no one else does.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
The last time,
are you ready to protect that generator?
I did a 14-day no power. I think it was 2008 in Oregon. We had just come to Oregon for a short amount of time, and we had 2 generators.
Right.
And because I was there, and when the neighbor came knocking, we were able to say, "Here's a generator." Now, I mean, it was a loaner, and we trust the neighbor. But the point being, prepping as a lifestyle, it's not just a end of the world scenario.
No,
all these are real world examples. I have been evacuated by a forest fire,
sure.
Well, twice in the last 5 years, and at least 3 or 4 times in my life. Whole towns burned down in Oregon last year. Whole towns burned down in California.
And there's one knocking on the door to
you again
to Lakeview right now, man. There's a massive explosion 2 days ago of a forest fire just in Lake County, outside of a place where my dear friends, and I got to say this, and I'm going to probably get in trouble for this. Okay. And this is not a look at me, Pastor Kirk's the hero of the story, but I got the most beautiful compliment yesterday from a friend who was irritated. And he was like, I got to be careful how I do this. Okay. Cause I could throw shade at a bunch of people in one shot without meaning to. But basically he was like, why is this cult church over here the first people to offer space for evacuees, that are being displaced from their homes? If you were here, our church would have stepped up. And I remember prepping that church. I remember being like, we need a shower.
I remember helping you prep that church.
You helped us prep that church. That's exactly right. We need a shower, because if we ever have to house people here, they need a place to get clean. I'm doing that with this church. I'm sitting in my drum set behind me. I mean, I'm sitting at my battle station. This is where I broadcast from. There may be a day coming when there's a subject that I'm going to throw up a green screen so that you won't know where I'm coming from. You'll have had to watch episode 0 to know. But I mean, we have plans to put in a shower here because, and no prepping. We've got a high school, a Christian high school coming through town in 3 weeks that have stayed with us for 4 years in a row. And every year I go, I'm trying to get you guys a shower. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Right. You know, I mean, there's like 12 high school kids from a Christian school that come through every year and they don't have a place to bathe when they stay with us. Right. You know? And so anyway, I felt like it was a beautiful compliment. You know, it's like, why in the world aren't we responding, being the gospel? This church was ready for this. You know, like we could have put people up and housed them and bathed them and fed them. And I was like, bro, that's a conversation you have to have with the leadership there. I cannot speak to the why. I cannot speak to the motives. Not my circus anymore. Not my monkeys.
I think 2 years ago, there all of a sudden was a major push, at least within the denomination you and I are a part of, to develop and implement and learn how to do live casting or live streaming or some sort of electronic outside the building church. And for you and I, we'd been there years prior
and been ridiculed.
This is just a part of doing what we do well.
Right.
Is to prepare ahead of time for what could happen. And it's really difficult. And, you know, you and I are both pastors and licensed ministers. And so our thought is always, how can we be the practical manifestation of Jesus in our communities and where our ministerial calling is. And for us, it's always been, well, that means you're ready and able to take care of people where they are when they need it.
Yes.
And you can't do that if you're not ready ahead of time.
Yes, you can't. And so one of the things that the ice storm in Portland revealed to me was when real emergency strikes, I'm not going to be able to go collect my friends.
You're not.
I'm not. It's just not an option. It was a pipe dream in my brain that was absolutely dispelled. If they can't get to me, and the open invitation for those friends, not everybody. You don't come and knock on my door unless you've been invited, right? You know what I mean? Like, but I'll just say this. I can't go get them. So then I had to shift. And the Portland ice storm really made me, and the culmination of the from last year, right? The CV-19,
there was a lot of China flu in Portland.
There's a lot of, those. I'm not going to call it that. But I appreciate that.
Well, it's where it came from funding from our own country.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on. What I was going to say is what was revealed to me personally was I have enough, but do I have enough to also be generous? That's what
neither one of us want to start stacking bodies on the porch of people that we formerly loved and considered to be friends.
Correct.
I don't want to do that. I will do it.
And I don't
want to do it.
And I think that this book was one of the biggest inspirations of, are you ready enough to be able to be generous? Because I feel like that's one of the things that's most inspiring about that book series.
Is that not what we're called to be?
Their generosity. They live out habitual generosity, and I, two people. We'll get deeper into the series, but spoiler alert. They live out generosity toward their enemies. They save people's lives who tried to kill them. In that series, and we'll get to that. We'll talk through those moments. And I think
should we give the spoiler that you can't be generous in that fashion if you aren't capable of?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's episode 0. We can give away whatever we want.
No, that's true. Great points. Present in every single one of these books, ultimately, right. And we could draw more parallels if we want to, but it's just it starts to become a universal truth that if you are not capable of great violence,
right,
then an expression of peace is really just an expression of cowardice.
Ooh, say that again.
So again, if you're not capable of the violence in the first place, then it's not peaceful to not express it. You're just being a coward because you really can't do anything about anything.
That's right.
In the first place. So it's not a choice. you're now a default action.
I think that sparks a memory back, taking it back to John Lovell, where he talks about like we are called to be dangerous men. You know, we are that doesn't mean that we always have to be violent men. That doesn't mean we have to be savage men. That means we have to be dangerous. And if we're not, then we're useless. You know,
if you're not capable of it, then
certainly. And I know we probably
but you don't get the choice.
We probably just inflamed a whole bunch of people, and I'm really okay with that. In fact, actually, in that regard, I actually had a really interesting Facebook interaction last night with someone who has kind of loosely been peripheral. I have to be really careful being a pastor and leading a church, right? You know, like someone loosely connected to, you know, I kind of know them peripherally, right? You know, and someone had said something about a political speech that was made yesterday that will strip about 100 million Americans of, you know, medical freedom. And they were like, well, I never watch him. I never listen to what he has to say, because I don't listen to liars. And I was like, pretty sure we're supposed to know our enemy. And I'm pretty sure that, even Jesus tells us to love our enemy and pray for them. You have to know them to be able to know how to pray for them. Right.
That's true.
And so whichever version of know your enemy you want, it's important to know who they are. And I basically challenged this person. I was like, what I hear you saying to me is I'm going to stick my head in the sand, and be uneducated at what evil men think and do. And I'm going to defer, and I'm going to outsource the heavy lifting to you, Pastor Kirk, and you other people, you know, so that I don't have to offend my sensibilities, you know, with their deceptions.
And I've been guilty of that.
I have too.
Because for the sake of blood pressure medicine.
Yes.
You know, there does come seasons where you do need to unplug.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And if we're going to get back to a genuine discussion about a Sabbath,
right,
is that not? I mean, let's talk about years of Jubilee and a reset.
Sure.
And you know,
and that Judea never lived out the year of Jubilee. They never ever lived that out the way God commanded them to do it.
The way commanded, yeah. So, man, there's some good conversations in that direction as well. And I mean, again, so I'm just thinking through these books and not just, so if you know who Goodwin is, then you understand why we're thinking about him right now specifically, but he's not the only one.
No,
he's not the only one. He's not. What are we high-fiving about?
I'm sorry, my camera's being dumb, so I was just making it refocus again. Sorry.
Anyway,
so this
you washed out. We got to work on your softbox.
You know what? I do need a softbox, but I'm not as washed out as I was earlier. I like where I'm at right now better. But anyway, so we have just hit the 1 hour mark. And if you've been watching, we got 4 viewers watching that have been. I think you've been hanging out for the majority of this, and we've had as high as 10 and as low as 1. Thank you for watching. These are going to be available. We'll do some marketing stuff and let you know what the YouTube channel is going to be at. If you've been watching this, if you've made it to the hour mark of this conversation, first of all, we need help naming this podcast. And because it's going to land on podcast platforms and it's going to land on YouTube, we're going to do the whole, like, put it out there as far and wide as we can.
I'll probably put it on my channel.
Yep. I'll put it on my channel, those kinds of things.
But it's getting its own channel.
It's getting its own channel. So you don't have to wade through my bariatric surgery or,
watch me make a bunch of holster videos. And
or your gaming content.
My gaming. Everybody likes my gaming content. I'm a Twitcher.
I mean, I like
Twitch,
dude. I love that old people have invaded Twitch. I love it, man. That's great. You and Donut Operator and all those guys, and then the kids come along.
Like half our age, you know.
Yeah. Well, he's old compared to Junior, and Junior wants to be a Twitcher.
True. Oh boy,
he wants to get twitchy, right? That's what I'm going to ask you. I'm going to be like, dude, are you getting twitchy?
Yeah, right.
You getting twitchy with it? No. Hey. Anyway, probably just broke copyright
He
law.
ain't got no internet in his office.
But he doesn't need to know that yet. Like he thinks he's broadcasting. He thinks he's broadcasting to the world. So anyway, Internet Land, we love you. Thank you for hanging with us. There will be more of this. We need a name. Comment down below.
You had a good one. You were thinking Survival Book Podcast.
Survival Book Club.
Kind of generic.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not bad.
Something along those lines. That's pretty generic. But no, seriously, if you got a really great brand, I got a buddy who runs a branding company. Maybe I'll throw it by him and just be like, hey, be creative and give me some love. But anyway, very, very excited. So we have said, so here's what I want to challenge. If you've been watching and you want to be a part of this, I want you to pick up, you do have stickers. I want you to pick up a copy of whether it's the online version, whether it's the audio version, or whether you get a hard copy version of Behind the Curve, Boyd Craven or Boyd Craven III.
Same guy. We're pretty sure.
The Farm, Book 1, Behind the Curve, The Farm, Book 1. Grab that there, because next week we're going to start there. And it's gonna be super rad. So I'm pumped. This conversation reordered everything and has undone a bunch of prep work that I have done for this series. But it was one of my skills. I think it's the right call. You have undone me, sir, in a strictly non-rom-com kind of way. Anyway.
Yeah.
And on that note,
we're not getting twitched about that.
And on that note, Internet Land, we are gone. Phil, do you have a
I will have to come up with one for this show.
Do you have a? No. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We out.
Bye. Hey, episode 0.